Well, hey, everybody, what's going on? It's Memorial Day, so, oops, I forgot I still have my lashes on, and I'm trying to push my glasses close, and they're like, like into the, it's, you know, it's hard with all of this accoutrement, you know what I mean? But yeah, I forgot that was on. So yeah, it's Monday, even though it doesn't feel like it. It feels like Sunday again. But here we are, talking about another episode of A Haunting, which we watched last night. Now, unlike many episodes of A Haunting, this one actually, the title actually said what happened in the episode. The Exorcism of Cindy Sauer.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep.
That's basically
right, like
what
it says on the tin.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened in there. It wasn't that any of this bullshit like echoes from the grave or, you know, calls from the attic or anything like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't vague. It was telling you exactly what the person's name was, and I wonder why they did that with this. They never do that.
I don't know.
Like specifically. So yeah, I honestly I love. It's kind of hard to, when I'm doing the thumbnails for these episodes, it's kind of hard to like find good images because there's really not, I guess because the show's so old or nobody really thought about it, it's kind of hard to find good images from IMDb. Like IMDb will usually have like one or two from each episode, but they're usually like not of the scary shit that's in the episode. They're usually like of the people, like the actors just like standing around doing nothing, which I don't understand why that is. But this one actually had a really cool photo of you know, the demon possessed Cindy, or the actress playing her, like with her face all fucking distorted, you know what I mean? Like I was saying the other day, like that Soundgarden video. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta use that because that's the only time like they actually had a good photo of this shit. But yeah, so Camp Guy says, my barely 5 granddaughter turned around on the playground, and for a split second or two, I saw her exactly as she will be at 8 or 9 as a girl. I was gobsmacked by the emotion I immediately manifested. Aw, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Yeah, Camp Guy said grandkids bring out some really unique feelings. I have heard that. I mean, I've never experienced that firsthand, but I've heard that that is the case. So yeah. This episode, what did we think about this episode, Tom?
I think it was kind of a samey kind of an episode.
A little bit.
The case was mostly just witness testimony, and they didn't really witness things moving or anything. It was mostly witnessing.
Other than like one thing.
Yeah, one thing. I think they threw a lug nut.
Yeah.
But people were just talking about how they felt.
Yeah.
That's kinda,
I mean, they saw things. They saw like apparitions. And several people saw apparitions, so I guess that's something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not so much, like you said, not so much poltergeist activity.
That file finally is going. I'm uploading something to the cloud, video, and
yeah, we were shooting some shit.
Yeah,
today.
we shared some shit, and then it went. It's got 12 minutes left. So yeah, that's how you do it to Dropbox. But for some reason, my connection to the internet says my connection to the cloud wasn't that good.
We're having all kind of technical issues.
Maybe it's.
Oh,
you know what?
What?
I'm running YouTube in the other room.
Oh.
Let me go ahead and
Man, go turn that shit off.
Fuck, man.
Why are you doing that all the time?
What was the music I was listening to?
That's right. That's right. We had the synth wave going for the scene we were shooting, because we were shooting a scene in there actually. So we like moved the lights in there and moved the lights back in here and stuff like that. And then the fucked up thing was that we shot the scene and it was great. Like, you know, we did like we had this whole scenario and like we were doing it, and then we were filming it with 2 cameras, but unfortunately the one camera that had kind of the shitty angle, like that one recorded, but then the other one that had like the really awesome angle that we wanted to keep, the camera like dumped it, like we lost the file. So we probably have to do it over.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was so mad because I was like, man, that was so good too.
Yeah.
Like we totally did. Like we did a little bit of rehearsal, like because we knew what the scenario was, but then we were just kind of like winging it, and I was like, man, this is coming out so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Tom's like, fuck, I lost the fucking.
Yeah,
like,
I turned the camera off and then turned it back on, and it asked me to reformat the fucking SD card. And I went, yeah, okay. I did that without
and then it
thinking.
erased.
I realized that erased everything.
Yeah. It does.
So it's a problem with that SD card. It's not the camera.
I mean, like I said, we still have the file from another angle, but the other angle isn't as good.
It's not good enough to use.
It's not really.
I threw
usable.
it away.
Did you really?
We can do that all over again.
We have to do it all over again. But that's like so shitty because I was like,
Yeah.
man, this turned out so good.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, it's a good rehearsal, I guess.
That's
It's all
what
experience.
that's what happens.
Yeah.
And we like, we shot some other stuff too that we can use. So there's that. We try to like not waste anything. You know?
Right. Well, even stuff that gets rejected, if there's 3 or 4 hot seconds in there, we'll lift that out. We're gonna use that as fucking basically teaser videos.
Yeah.
Maybe something that runs.
So I like to think that like
we don't waste anything.
Can be used, like even if there's just like 3 seconds of something like cool in there.
Yeah, if it looks good, we're gonna use it.
But yeah, and we always do like photos and stuff too, like while we're all like dressed up and everything. All right, so this here was from season 5 because we're working our way through season 5. I think there's only a couple left in season 5. This was episode 9. I kind of remembered this one. I remembered because the mom in it, she looks like the mom and the daughter both kind of look like a little bit like punk rock chicks, kind of. Because the mom has like one piercing right here. Because what's the word for that? Well, she has the one that's like the Marilyn Monroe kind of thing. But it's blue though.
Yeah, like a little beauty mark.
Like a little beauty mark like thing right there, like on her upper lip. And then like the daughter had 2 of them that were also like the same color. They were like a baby blue. But like the daughter, whose name was Chastity, by the way, also had like bright pink hair. And it was kind of all swept over to one side. So it was like very emo, I feel like, of the time that this came out. Because when did season 5? Season 5 was 2012, right?
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah. And this happened in Georgia. Now this happened although I think when the story took place, they said it was 2010. So I guess it was a couple years before they did the show about it. They did it. This place called Social Circle, Georgia. I'm like, what? Who named that town? There's a town called Social Circle, Georgia, evidently. I mean, I know there's a lot of dumbass like town names, but that's one of the weirder ones I've ever heard. Social Circle, Georgia.
Well, Social Circle was hanging out.
I guess so. It's like there's like 5 people there like having tea. Let's name a town after ourselves. Yeah. All right. So that's what they did. So as I said, this took place in 2010. And the mom's name, who obviously is Cindy, now she's on there and she's talking about, she really loved living in Social Circle, Georgia. It was like a small town, very typical like Georgia small town, southern small town, I guess. Now, at some point prior to the events of this story, prior to the paranormal events, Cindy's husband dies. Now, at first, they don't tell you how he dies, but you find out later on, spoiler alert, that he actually shot himself. Now, I was led to assume, I don't think they ever said this outright, but I think they implied that he had shot himself in that house that they were living in. Because this wasn't a case where they moved to a new place and then, oh shit, it's haunted. You know what I mean? This was I was led to assume that they were in the same house that they had been in when he killed himself. Because I think they said later on, it's like, oh, we were thinking about moving because this house had so many bad memories in it, but they couldn't afford it. Because obviously what had happened was that when the husband, whose name was Jim, I think, he was a mechanic, and I guess he was the one that was, the main breadwinner in the family. I'm assuming, like, Cindy was kind of like a stay-at-home mom type situation. And so when he committed suicide, because he was like an alcoholic, although they don't know exactly why he killed himself. They didn't really go into that all that much. But so when he died, they were just kind of like, oh shit, like now we don't have any money and we still have to like pay for this house. So Cindy actually worked as a singer. She was like in a band, and I guess she toured around, and I'm assuming she made enough money to live on at least. I don't know what the real house looked like. I mean, the one in the episode was like not something that you'd probably be able to afford if you were just singing in a bar band, but maybe most of it was paid for. I don't really know. But yeah. So that's what she did. She sang it. It was like a blues and country band. And I guess she sang it. It wasn't just at one place. I guess she like toured around some. So that was that. And that was their main source of income. So, like, the daughter, who, like I said, she was, like, a teenager. I don't think they specified how old she was. I'm assuming, like, 16, 17, something like that. And she was always like, she wanted to go see her mom perform, but she wasn't 21 yet, so she couldn't go. So, pretty much, like, the first thing that happened, as I said, I don't think they just moved into this house. I think this was the house that they had been living in and presumably had not had any trouble with, prior to this. But apparently the mom, she comes back from like running errands, like grocery shopping or some shit, and she's in the kitchen and she said she felt something grab her from it, like two-handed, and she said she actually felt like hands on her. And she turns around thinking it's the daughter, like scaring the shit out of her, like, hey, what are you doing? You know what I mean? But then, like, no one's there, obviously. So, yeah. So, like I said, she just tries to ignore it, as they usually do from the start. So, what happened not too long after this is that Chastity, who's the daughter, she's in the kitchen, like, sitting at the table, like, eating lunch or something like that, and she looks out the window and sees a person, like, in the backyard. And she said he didn't look exactly like her dad, but gave her the impression that that was her dad, like, standing in the background. Like, it kind of looked like him, but kind of different. I will say, and I'm not sure what, you know, this is, like, really sad because the dude killed himself, and that's horrible. But, the dude that they have playing the dad in the, because, you know, he turns up as, like, a ghost or whatever, in the episode, they kind of made him look like a hobo. Which I'm like, did he?
Yeah, the dad was a bum.
Did he really look like a hobo in real life? Did they just do that just because she said he was an alcoholic? I'm like, some alcoholics look like not all alcoholics look like hobos, you know? It's like, you know what I mean? So I thought that was a little disrespectful that they kind of made him look like a hobo. Maybe he did look like a hobo. I don't really know. But it's just like, it did seem like they made him look like a scary hobo.
They were just trying to make him look like a scumbag.
Well, I guess they were trying to make it so that, like, when you see his ghost, it would be scarier. Yeah. Because obviously it would be scarier to see, like, a hobo-looking dude than, like, just a regular-looking dude. Yeah. I guess. Like, if you're seeing a ghost. I don't know. But, yeah, I was just kind of like, that's kind of shitty that they made us, you know, he had problems, you know what I mean? Don't make the dude look like a bum. That's shitty. But, yeah, so she sees somebody in the backyard that she thinks looks like her dad, and she, you know, because I guess they kind of believed in the shit, and they were like, well, you know, maybe dad is still, like, around, like, watching over us or something like that. So, you know, Chastity kind of starts screaming, though. So, like, the mom comes and looks, but she doesn't see anybody, but she's curious about it because Chastity says, I'm pretty sure, like, it looked like dad, you know what I mean? So Cindy goes out to look and goes out to the shed in the backyard, which I guess was kind of like where Jim used to, like, hang out back in the day. And there's, like, a lug nut from her that, you know, that was her husband's, because like I said, he was a mechanic, and it's on the workbench, and I'm assuming the way she reacted, like, it wasn't there before, like it had come from somewhere else. I mean, that was the impression that I got, the way she was talking about it. But it just kind of, like, it started, like, shaking on the table, and then it, like, kind of pitched itself at her, not like it was trying to hit her, but trying to, like, get her attention, you know what I mean? So basically she's like, oh, well, obviously Jim is still hanging around, you know, and so she wasn't super scared at first, and she's like, maybe he's still watching over us, and he's trying to, like, get my attention. So she, like, starts talking to him. It's like, you know, oh, me and Chastity are doing fine, and blah, blah, blah. But just because she's kind of nervous about it, she actually sends Chastity, she's like, why don't you go stay at a friend's house, like, until we sort out, like, what all this weird ghost business is. And like I said, they did talk about wanting to move out of the house, which, like I said, was, I presume, the same house where he killed himself. But, you know, Cindy is still trying to save money, you know, so they can't afford to move yet. So there's that. So over the next few months, according to the program, things start to improve, I guess, at least, like, in Cindy's social life and stuff like that, because she meets this guy named Jason, who was a former pastor. I guess he's not a pastor anymore, but he used to be one. I don't know what he is now. I don't think they said. So they start dating pretty seriously. Now, Jason also sees kind of a shadowy figure out by the shed in the backyard, like pretty much the same place that Chastity saw him earlier. So he's like, oh, well, you know, maybe it was just somebody farting around in your yard, or maybe it was just a shadow or something like that. Because it was kind of like dusk, you know what I mean? Like they were out having a drink, like on the patio or whatever. Later that evening, they're actually, like, sitting in the living room watching a movie. And then Cindy hears this weird sound. On the show, it kind of sounded like a breathy growling kind of noise, I guess. Like, I'm not really sure how else you would describe it. And then somebody knocked on the front door, and it was, like, supposedly, like, really late at night, because they're like, what the fuck? Why is somebody, like, knocking on the door at this time of night? So Jason, he's like, well, I better go and check this out, because, you know, that's a job for a man, right? So he goes and opens the door, and obviously nobody's there, but they both heard the knocking. And they both presumably heard that weird breathy growling noise. Although I think Jason said it's like, oh, maybe it's your air conditioner. I'm like, I'm sure she's lived here a long time. I'm sure she's pretty aware of what the air conditioner sounds like, but okay. But the thing about Jason in this one is that, because they interviewed the real guy as well, because he had been a pastor and because he tells her later that he had had some paranormal shit happen to him, like, too, like when he was younger. So he was pretty immediately, like, on board with stuff. Like, he didn't go through this whole rigmarole where he's just kind of like, oh, you're crazy or you're just tired or whatever. He didn't go through that whole thing. He pretty much, like, believed her, like, from the get-go, which was kind of nice. So, at this point, like, after the knocking and everything, and Jason's like, huh, that was really weird. Like, there was nobody there. And then Cindy says, well, I'm pretty sure, and she tells him, like, about the stuff that's happened up until then, like, about, Chastity seeing the guy in the backyard and, like, the lug nut and everything. And she's like, I'm pretty sure that my dead husband is haunting the shit, you know what I mean? And maybe trying to, like, communicate with me, but, like, maybe he has something to tell me. So Jason, like I said, it's like, oh, he's real into the paranormal. He's like, yeah, I had some paranormal experiences as a child. It's like, I find it really interesting. So he thought it was, like, pretty cool. And so she apparently also thought it was kind of cool. So she's like, oh, Halloween's coming up. Maybe we should do, like, a ghost hunt. You know what I mean? Like, go out on some fucking ghost hunting thing. So that's what they decide to do. Before that, though, the following night, or later the same night, I'm not really sure. Doesn't really matter. Chastity has this terrible, terrible nightmare, which was very, very realistic, about her father's death. And in this dream, she basically sees his bum-looking ass sitting on this bed.
Bum-looking ass.
Well, it's like, it's not my fault. I'm sure the real dude was like a normal-looking dude, but it's like the actor in this, they really made him look like a scuzzbag, and I'm just like, well, that's not cool. But yeah, so he's like sitting on the bed, crying or whatnot, like with the gun in his hand. And then in the dream, she sees that same black figure, like this evil-looking black figure, like essentially kind of telling her dad to like shoot himself. You know what I mean? Like, or influencing him in that regard, I guess.
Let me say something about the gun.
Okay.
Because you guys know that fucking we got gun fucking fans on the show. I was looking at the gun, man, and it looked like an old fucking Smith & Wesson, like a 3914, I think is what they call it, or 3915, like back in the 90s, the 9mm dual stack semi-autos. I'm looking at it, but it's like 3/4 size. And I'm like, man, is that a little 380 that they made? And no, it was a toy gun that they painted up to look black and everything. It looked cool, though. But I was just saying, they never shot the thing, so they didn't need a blank fire.
Yeah, they wouldn't really need. Yeah, it's just, this is a haunting, okay? Yeah, we're not doing like a big Hollywood movie where you need like a realistic type of shit. You got to keep everything safe.
It had me confused for a second, though. It looked real. But it was a toy. It was a toy that was painted up. A very accurate toy of a Smith & Wesson 9mm automatic.
Yeah, because they didn't actually, they just kind of showed him crying and like putting it to his head and stuff.
I was impressed, though. I was like, man, what model is that? Looked like a little 380. Like, oh, it's a fucking toy. Yeah.
Well, if it fooled Tom, then that's pretty good.
For a few seconds, yeah.
I mean, the prop department, props to the prop department. You guys did a good job. Mm-hmm. You almost fooled Tom into thinking it was real.
It was 3/4 size. And I'm going like, there's 9mm and there's 380, which is, this, I guess you could say the size below 9mm, and a lot of times there is that 3/4 size factor going on if you go over to 380, because you don't need a lock breech. But no, it was a fucking toy.
It's a fucking toy.
Fucking toy, yeah.
Well, So Cynthia has, or Cynthia, why did I call her Cynthia? I don't know. Because I was thinking like the mom's name is Cindy, but her name is Chastity, and I was like combining those two things weirdly. So Chastity like wakes up screaming, as you would. I mean, that's a pretty traumatic dream to be having, I'm sure. And Cindy is like, once she goes in there and finds out what's going on, she's like, maybe we shouldn't be staying in here like right now. Maybe we should go to, and she said there was this like all night diner like not too far away. So it's like they went there and like hung out like over the night, you know what I mean? So at one point, Cindy is out house hunting because, like I said, they're, preparing to move at some point when she has enough money saved. And she kind of gets lost and goes off on this tangent and comes across this abandoned house that was, like, super fascinating and creepy. Almost like she was drawn there. It was, like, that kind of situation. So she's like, oh my God, you know how me and Jason were talking about doing like a ghost hunt? This would be perfect. So she sends him a picture of it and said, hey, this weekend we're going to explore this shit. It'll be like super creepy and it'll be awesome. So that's what they do. Like that weekend, they come to this abandoned house, which I don't know like the logistics of this. Cause I know they do all the urbex and all that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of like, you just come across a random abandoned house. I don't know if I'd be so head up about, hey, let's just like go here and get some flashlights and like hang out in here like for the night. You don't know like who the fuck is squatting in there. You know what I mean? But yeah, so they did that. So they come back and they have like cameras and like a tape recorder. They're going to try and like catch some paranormal activity like going on in this creepy ass place. Now, they didn't say that they saw this, and I know I say that a lot like during these breakdowns. But there's like a shadow guy like running around in the background like behind them, like while they're kind of like with the flashlights and everything. There's like whoosh, like a shadow guy running around the back, like in the bushes and stuff. They didn't say they saw that though, so they're just trying to like hint, I guess, that that's what's going on. And also, like before they even go in, like Cindy hears a car pull up, and she's like, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? Like maybe it's the cops or something like that. So she goes to check, but there's nobody there. So it was like a sound, like a car motor, but there wasn't anybody. And then there was stuff like a weird wind and like the trees moving and like this cold breeze and all this other kind of stuff. And like I said, that shadow figure kind of darting around, which they actually I think they implied that they did actually kind of see that, or at least saw what looked like maybe like a shadowy figure kind of dart around in the bushes. And they said they felt like whatever it was like all around them. Like it was like ready to jump out and like pounce on them. So they're like, yeah, fuck this shit. So understandably. So then they run for the car, but then she says the thing, which I'm assuming she means the shadow thing, she said came at her like a train, like pow. You know what I mean? So she hops in the car, they drive off, like, peel out or as much as you can on a dirt road. And then, they drive a little way down and then like he pulls over so they can kind of like get their bearings or whatever. And so when they stop the car, Cindy is acting like possessed as hell. She is all like fucking growling and like contorting and like the whole fucking deal. You guys know how it goes, like the whole possessy kind of thing. So, hissing at him and whatnot. So Jason, who is no slouch in this department because he used to be a pastor, y'all. So he knows how to deal with demons, that's for sure. So he pretty much immediately, which is so funny, he just like immediately twigs onto the fact it's like, oh, she must be possessed by a demon. I know just what to do. So he just starts yelling at her, tell me your name, tell me your name. Like he starts yelling that at her. And then, so she's like start like growling and hissing and whatnot. And then like in between all of that possessy stuff, she basically says, help me. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of like that kind of deal. So Jason starts praying, and tries to get Cindy to pray too, but she said that she couldn't say the word Jesus. Like she's just, she couldn't get it out because the demon's like making her not be able to say that. So, but then like finally she does, and she goes back to normal, at least for a little while, because, that demon's just kind of like hanging out in there. You know how that goes. Now, Cindy said that the next day she felt like real hazy was the word she used. She said she felt really drained, and her daughter said that after this point she started to become like a real bitch. You know what I mean? Because she's like, before that, like her mom had been really sweet and really nice and all this other kind of stuff, and now she's just like really irritable and really hostile and everything like that. Chastity comes in and she's like, hey, I'm going to go over to my boyfriend's house, or we're going to go to the movies or something like that. I don't care what you do. Get out of here. It was like that kind of shit, which was like, we kind of laughed at that. I don't care what you do. And she's like, oh, okay, I'm going to take that and run with it. So, she's a teenager. So yeah. So she's like, I guess she's kind of going back and forth between like possessy and normal, right? So she's kind of like scared of what's happening. So she asked Jason to like stay over. But then she sees the shadow guy in the yard and gets like all possessy again. Like they're kind of sitting outside like watching the stars or whatever. And he said that she was sitting on the hood of the car and she got like thrown backward and she started acting all fucking crazy again. You know what I mean? And now she's convinced, now that this thing has been inside her, I guess, that this is the thing that made her husband kill himself, and now it's after her. That's what
okay.
she has surmised from this whole situation. That this thing has been in this house prior to that, and like she didn't see it, and I guess she thought that it was like influencing him because she didn't know why he killed himself. That's what I'm saying. I think that they kind of implied that she didn't know like the exact reason. Yeah, he was an alcoholic and stuff like that, but you know, a lot of people are alcoholics and they don't kill themselves. So there must have been like something else going on, and she didn't know what was going on. So she started becoming convinced, well, this is a demon or whatever, and it made him do that, and now it's coming after me because it's a dick, you know what I mean? So, so basically, what happened after that? Like, I can't even read my own fucking handwriting. Look at this shit.
Yeah.
I got to the bottom of the page, and I was just like, whoa.
You're writing cursive, though.
Yeah. Well, it's
Did
faster.
you know that Gen Z doesn't know how to write?
It's faster.
I heard that Gen Z can't write nor read in fucking cursive.
Well, they probably don't teach them.
They don't teach anymore.
I learned it in 3rd grade when I was 8. They made the Palmer method. They they gave you those fucking long ass like pieces of paper with all the lines on it, like the 2 lines and then the dotted line in the middle, and you had to like do it all nice and everything. I have very nice penmanship, but the thing about it is that, well, I was not so much here because I'm trying to write fast, you know what I mean? And sometimes I go into like all caps, especially if it's something that like somebody's saying. But yeah, so Jason, like I said, because he's a former pastor, he's like, again, he knows how to deal with this like demon thing. I've dealt with this before. Don't worry. I've got this handled. The demons. So basically she starts saying, okay, well, we need to get help though. Like we need, I mean, because he's dealt with it before, but he's like, you know, it's a little above his pay grade apparently. So he's like, we need to go to like, you know, the church or whatever. And apparently as soon as he said that, like we need to go get some help from the church, like her voice gets all demony and starts kind of like fucking with him, like, you know, saying all kind of like horrible shit about him and all this other kind of stuff. So at this point, they call, not the church, they actually call some paranormal investigators from Roswell, Georgia, which I guess was like, at first was like a 2-person team. I think their names were Michelle and I can't remember like the dude's name. Dan. So they kind of show up. So they come to the house. Michelle goes into the bedroom and feels like real creeped out in there. And then Dan has his little EMF meter and there's like a huge big spike on it. And they said they got the impression that there was an entity there that was perhaps guarding something. So there was basically like, when they were doing the EVP sessions, they asked a question. It's like, oh, if you're here, like make a noise. And it wasn't even on the EVP. Everybody apparently heard that breathy, growly noise like from earlier. So everybody heard that. So they're just like, okay, well, I guess it made a noise. So there it is. And then after that, the guy, Dan, who's the guy with the EVP thing, he says, he asks the ghost, do you know that this is Cindy's house? This isn't your house. And at that point, like, Cindy gets attacked again. Like, she starts getting thrown backward and thrashing about and all that kind of stuff. So, and she said that she was describing what this felt like, and she's basically like, well, I guess she was still knew that she was her, but this thing that was in her, it's like, I really wanted to kill Dan, like the paranormal investigator. Like, I just wanted to jump on him and, like, fucking kill him, you know what I mean? So I'm assuming that was, like, the demon. So, and she kind of, like, says she wants to talk, but the demon won't let her. You know, so the demon's trying to, like, pounce on the dude and everything like that. Now, Dan supposedly weakens the entity's control temporarily by, I don't know what he was doing. He had a Bible, so I guess that's why. So, well, again, kind of a wimpy demon, gonna say. All you gotta do is read a page out of the Bible, and it's like, oh no, you know. And everybody knows to do that. We've all seen the movies. Come on, up your game. I'm just saying, demons. But yeah, so he reads the Bible at it, and it's just kind of like curses, you know what I mean? So it kind of like goes inside Cindy somewhere and doesn't pop out. So
didn't pop outside. Went inside, didn't pop out.
Pops out our ears.
Happened with me because sometimes my shit will pop out.
Your shit pops out all the time.
You're trying to long stroke and get a good fucking camera angle.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, everything we talk about is now is like porn related because it's just kind of like. Because it's like usually, like I said, we just came off like doing like a bunch of like a shoot
shit here.
like doing a shoot where we shot a bunch of stuff, and so he was just like thinking about everything popping out. It's you got a demon popping out of
Guess who's waiting to see the shit? Little Aaliyah.
Really?
Yeah. She's like, been wanting to do OnlyFans. And I said, well, I'll send you some samples and shit. Okay. Yeah. Might be able to fucking collab with her. Because they do that. Because she can't do her own edits. You know? Doesn't have any equipment either.
Well, I made a bunch of little teaser videos. Yeah. Well, they're not teasers. They're X-rated, but I mean they're short. Yeah. Like I think the longest one is like 1 minute and 6 seconds or something like that.
That's good. You need that for OnlyFans. That's
what I'm saying.
They're all fishing videos.
Right.
Getting tips and fucking.
It's like I cut little like shorter bits out of the longer ones, and then we shot some stuff that like a lot of it we couldn't use because like the angle was fucked up, but there was like some good stuff in there that I could use. But
you use
that's
those,
only like a few seconds.
You use those to sell bigger videos. And
right. So that's what we're doing. Yeah. So while the entity is weakened by a page out of the Bible, like wuss, Michelle, who's the other paranormal investigator, she says to Cindy, "I'm afraid that you need an exorcism because it's right there in the title. I mean, you knew she was going to need an exorcism at some point." So that night, Jason stays over, and this was kind of funny because so he's in bed, but he's trying to be like slick, and he's laying over on his side, and he's like praying like in like all sneaky, like he's like that, you know what I mean? Like so she can't see him, but she's laying over there like on her back, and she, the demon knows what he's doing, obviously. So she does the demon voice, "Stop praying." You know what I mean? She does it like that. And he's just, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. It's that kind of situation. And then we laughed at this. Because then she says like some weird ass shit, right? Like some shit that sounds like another language. And Jason, legit, like the real guy, he legit comes out and says, "Oh, I recognized it as Aramaic." I'm like, bullshit. You did not. Yeah. Who the fuck just knows enough Aramaic that it's like, oh, I know exactly what that said.
Went to Harvard to learn fucking Aramaic.
I'm not saying that people don't know Aramaic. They do. I'm just saying that I find it very hard to believe
that this bitch knew what Aramaic
that
was.
This guy was so familiar with Aramaic that he immediately like knew what that phrase meant that she said. I'm just like not buying it. That's what I'm saying. If it was French or something like that, fine. Like, that's fine. Because a lot, that's millions and millions of people speak that. But I'm just saying, Aramaic, I'm not buying it. Even if it was Latin, I would buy it. Aramaic, not so much. But apparently what he says, I recognized it as Aramaic. No, you didn't. And what the phrase was, according to him, and like I'm sure nobody checked, so he could just like, whatever, make it up, was, "Your God bows to me." I'm like, clearly not, because you don't even, like, you just read a page out of the Bible and you just get all verklempt about it. So it's like, it must be, your God's not bowing to nobody. So yeah. Also, at this point, Cindy, she looks in the mirror, like they kind of skip ahead to like a different scene. And she's like looking in the mirror, and it's kind of a situation where, you remember in the Amityville Horror where like Margot Kidder like looked in the mirror and she was like an old lady?
Yeah.
You remember that? Yeah, that was a good scene actually. Yeah. It was kind of like that. Like, her face didn't look like old lady face, like, necessarily, but she looked kind of fucked up. But her hands looked like old lady hands. And I was like, oh, look, they went to Spirit Halloween and got, like, some of those really long, like, black talon fingernails. So she was wearing those, like, oh, that's how they showed that she was, like, demon-possessed. She had, like, old-looking hands with big fucking Spirit Halloween nails on them. So there we go. Also, her head, like, kind of starts flopping around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's your standard issue, like, possession kind of situation. So Jason starts praying again, and the entity lets go for a bit, like I said. So he can't be that powerful, I'm just saying. So they're like, okay, well, the priest is on the way. They call the priest, and he's going to come out there, and he's going to take care of the situation, probably. But before that, Cindy is getting, like, super nervous about it. It's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do the exorcism and all this other kind of shit. And then she started saying, like, the real woman, she actually started saying, I felt like before the priest was getting there, I guess he was, like, on the way there en route. And she's like, I felt like I wanted to cut my leg open. She said that she wanted to, like, stab herself in the leg and just, like, see what was inside there or something like that. Weird. So I'm like, yeah, that's an issue. So yeah. So then the priest and the team and everything like that, they show up. And I actually wrote down this dude's name. His name was Reverend Darren Simpson, and one other person whose name I didn't catch. Like I said, I try to write this down like really quick because I hate to kind of stop it and like back it up every few seconds. So I just try to write really fast. I should probably learn shorthand is what I should probably do. But, you know, one of these days. Because that would probably be a lot easier. So Michelle said that she senses the presence of evil, which, you know, sure. And they're kind of, the thing about it is that I guess Cindy is still in the house at this point, but like everybody else, like Jason and the paranormal team and everything like that, like they went outside like to meet the priest because he was showing up. So they're all outside. And Michelle said, oh, I felt like maybe we shouldn't go inside, like something really bad would happen. And then so they hear this big loud crash from like inside the house. So they all kind of run in there. And this was actually a pretty funny, I mean, it'd be terrifying if it happened in real life, but it's like funny to see it like in a thing. So they walk in the house and Cindy is just like fucking doing gymnastics like all over the shit. Like, you know what I mean? She's like on the couch, like she's going to like kind of tumbling from the couch to like the couch arm and then like back again and like boom, 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 like that. And I was just like, wow, crazy. So it's, you know, like I said, if you really saw that in real life, you'd probably shit your pants. But like when you see it like in a reenactment, you're just kind of like, okay. It's just like, I'm like, woo, look at her go. So yeah, just tumbling around everywhere. So she also said at this point that she wanted to kill Jason, her boyfriend. So, you know, hatred fills up the room. That's what the narrator said. So that'll happen. And then after this, like, I didn't even, like, write down all the stuff, because this is just standard exorcism, yada, yada. You see this at the end of everything. Put her in a chair and, like, tie her down, and, like, the Lord, blah-de-blah, and, like, you know, put the thing, and she's screaming and hissing and all that nonsense. So at the end, they basically give her, what does that say? The holy water what? Oh, holy wafer. Okay. I was like,
the holy water enema. That'd be fun.
They've never tried that on one of these shows.
No.
Yeah, because I was thinking that for a second. I'm like, wait, where did they put the holy water? They give her a holy water enema. Well, you know, getting the demon out from the inside out. That's how you got to do it.
They did that in the medieval era a lot. Giving people
that's what I'm saying. So there's a, you know, so there is a precedent. There is a precedent for that. We didn't just make that up.
No.
They did do that kind of crap back then. I mean, you know, the medieval people, what did they know? It's like they're always wanting to stick stuff up each other's butts.
They're crazy.
Eating dead stuff that found on the side of the road. And
making people smell dead stuff. Try to smell that. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, some people actually still do that.
Yeah.
This tastes terrible. Try it. Which is a shitty thing to do to somebody. Don't do that. But yeah. So, not holy water enema would be much funnier. But no. They actually just give her the holy wafer because they're like, okay, well, that's how you know. Because after the exorcism is over, that's how you know if it worked or not. That's like the test. They're like, here, have this cookie. It's a Nilla wafer for sure. It's not like, not really, they didn't really do that. But he's like, yeah, it's a holy wafer. And it's like, then she starts like, she's like gagging and stuff. So they're like, well, fuck, it didn't work. So we got to do it again. So, you know, priest fucked it up the first time. Didn't work. So yeah, we got to do it again. Now, there's also, like, during this whole exorcism situation, and again, nobody said they saw this specifically, but there's that black shadow dude, like, moving around, and everybody kind of felt super cold, and maybe the demon trying to get into somebody else, because I think one of the other paranormal teams said it's like, oh, I felt somebody standing next to me, or somebody was, like, coming at me, or some shit like that. And then at this, like, Cindy, they said she looked, like, super fucked up. Like, she had, like, really cloudy, milky-looking eyes, and, just acting like an animal, basically, which, you know, like I said, standard exorcism type stuff. And then, you know, the priest, Reverend Darren, I think is his name, and he's just all, you know, asking what the demon's name is and shit like that. And then finally, it seemed like it wasn't that hard to get the name out of him. You know what I mean? It's just, but I didn't catch the name. Did they say it? Because
No.
I mean, the way that they talk, they act like they said it, but I was like, if they did, I didn't catch it. Or
the name of the demon?
I said Yeah.
I don't know.
Stephanie? I don't know.
Name of the demon?
Stephanie the demon.
They're going to say it's Beelzebub. They're going to say something real generic.
Or they're going to...
Belial.
Yeah. I mean, one that everybody recognizes. They're like, oh, shit, that's bad, right?
Oh, yeah, that one? Yeah, I know that one.
They can't just like... Or they have to make up something that sounds bad, you know?
Does it say Azazel?
Astaroth.
Yeah.
That was one that I just saw in the what episode of Thriller.
Yeah.
He was like praying to Astaroth.
It's just saying those names and all that just reminds me of being a kid listening to Venom albums. All right.
Right.
Venom was it was one of they fucking invented the black metal genre. It was a lot like Motorhead. It was good music. I liked it, but it had the satanic motif. Okay, and you run out of shit. You know what I mean? So they would just you do run out. But fucking
it's a limited aesthetic.
Yeah, the dude that was Kronos was the main singer. Actually, his name was Conrad Lent. Fucking nice British guy. Fucking ended up fucking getting jacked and shit. But I saw an interview with him because a lot of the shit would kind of scare me coming off of fucking seeing a poltergeist when I was a kid and fucking having a religious background. I thought maybe they believed in this, but I saw an interview with him later on YouTube because you didn't have YouTube when I was growing up, so you didn't have access to any of these people. And he was like, "It's so funny, you know. I'm doing this. People asking me if I'm sacrificing virgins and fucking killing babies. And shit. No, this is." I don't believe in any of this shit, man. It's like you watched The Evil Dead, and I saw The Evil Dead, and this is the albums that we came up with. It's just, totally creative endeavor.
That's what I mean. It's like people taking that shit too seriously.
Oh, yeah, especially in the United States. They were taking
back in the 80s.
That was during the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, we did a couple shows about that.
Yeah. There was just a band that had a horror theme.
Yeah.
And, that's all it was. But it's funny because, they used all the fucking real cliche demon names a lot,
Well, like I said, you have to you want to go with ones that are slightly obscure, but you still want them to be kind of recognizable, so people are like, oh, I've heard about that. You know what I mean?
Oh, Conrad did his research. I'm sure he read that what's that? The fucking
Malleus
Malefic. Yeah, all those witch's hammer and all that.
Which now that was a real book, so
yeah, all those fucking Renaissance fucking witch hunting books. He must have read all that because he could name all the damn demons and putting even fucking he had the names of fucking Greek titans in there,
Sure,
Kronos was a titan.
Mix it all up.
He had it all in there. Just anything that was old and powerful and bad, It was.
Wasn't Kronos the father of Zeus?
Yeah, he was eating all of his fucking wives' children to keep them from becoming the gods. And eventually Zeus fucking survived the cannibalism and fucking...
Don't eat me, Dad!
I think cut his balls off and then killed him, I think he actually...
yeah, it was something like that.
I think
There's a lot of that going on in ancient mythology.
Yeah, in those days, to overthrow your dad, you had to cut his balls off.
That was just what you did.
Yeah.
That was the rules.
Which is probably what happened. That's probably what happened to Moses. Noah. It's probably what happened to Noah. In the Noah story... What was his son? Cain? I think it was Cain. No. What was his other son? One that said that saw him naked and they banished him.
Right.
Fucking Dr. Price said
was Noah the one that had Shem, Ham, and...
Yeah, it was Ham, I think, one of them. Shem, Ham, and one of the sons...
Ham.
one of the sons saw him naked and covered up his nakedness, and then they cast him out for that. All right. So.
He's like, what? You wanted his just dick hanging out for everybody to see? I was just putting a blanket over the motherfucker.
Dr. Price.
I get punished forever for that.
We've had Dr. Price on the show before. He does not believe that's what it was. Originally, what he thought that, I think it might have been Ham. Or was it Cain? No.
But see, Cain wasn't Noah's son, though.
Yeah, and Cain predates all that.
Yeah. He was
predates all that.
He was Adam and Eve's son.
Right. What they think really happened was I think it might have been Ham. That Ham cut Noah's balls off.
See, that makes more sense to me. Because that's everybody would be like, what the fuck?
And what do you mean you try to take it? Why would that happen? It's because in older stories, to overthrow a godlike demigod, the son had to cut the dad's balls off. Therefore, he's no longer a man. You can now take his throne.
Right, you're like taking his masculinity.
You're taking his masculinity. Therefore, he could no longer rule. And which means that if that's what it originally said, they cut that out because it was probably a dead giveaway that all of these dudes were mythological, like all the other mythological
they had to
gods.
change the shit up.
They had to change it up.
Because they stole stuff from like all the older religions. They're like, well, let's change it a little bit so everybody knows that we're like, it's a copyright violation.
Yeah, it's a copyright violation. So wait a minute, if we leave the whole ball cutting game, they'll know that we're talking about the Greeks and all the other stories.
Because that's a very...
And we've already proclaimed all those other stories as legend and fucking
so we have
mythology, so we got to get that out of there.
But they didn't do a real good job of it because there's still, like, all these lingering...
There's a lot of mythology in there.
There's a lot of lingering stuff in there that doesn't make any sense unless you go back and look at, like, the original mythology that inspired it.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of shit. Who was the dude that had all the hair? All the red hair.
Samson?
No. Samson was
the dude with all the hair.
All the red hair.
The guy with the hair and the head.
Ishmael, no, what was this fucking... Anyway, what they're actually alluding to, and there's a bunch of details Dr. Price talked about, what they're talking about is an old solar god. The red hair and the hair all of his body is the golden red sun rays of another god is what they're talking about. So all the old gods that the Hebrews believed, or the Jews believed in, had been demoted into demigods and guys that were men of great renown. But they used to be gods because it was a pantheon, like the Greek.
Sure.
And
But, they couldn't have that anymore. It's like, no, there's just one.
You can't throw that story out. Okay, we'll reboot it as this is a descendant.
That story's so good.
Yeah, okay, we'll reboot it as that this guy is a descendant of fucking Noah. And we'll include it. Like, okay.
Well, I kind of feel like, too, they were probably, like, really lazy. They're like, well, these are good stories, and it's like, we're too lazy to, like, rewrite all our own shit, so let's just, like... retrofit some of these stories, but we'll just change them enough so people will be like, ooh, like it's all new, you know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. John Gore says Engelbert, that's the name of
Engelbert.
That's the name of the demon. Engelbert Humperdinck. There's a whole, because I know Tammy's here, and she's like real into Eddie Izzard, and he did like a whole fucking funny thing about Engelbert Humperdinck, because I don't know if you know, but that's not his real name.
Yeah, I think that was
like
they took.
And it's like, that's what he did, like a whole bit where he was just like, I'd love to be the fly on the wall, like during that meeting where they like, because he had a normal name.
Is Engelbert.
So he had like a normal name, and like so he comes up with this, because a lot of his stuff is like improvisational, so he comes up with this whole like long list of like all these fucking crazy names that they came up with before that, and it's just like I can't remember all of them, but it was like super funny. But yeah, so Engelbert the Demon. So Reverend Darren, right? Yeah, Dan was the paranormal investigator guy. I'm getting confused with all the D names. I think they said the demon's name was Ammon, right? Because that's a demon. That's a demon name, right?
Maybe.
I guess that's kind of I don't know. It was something like that. So he gives up the name like pretty easily. He's a pretty weak ass demon, gonna say. So the Reverend is like, so now they can tell him to leave by name. You get out of here. That's basically what it is. So, that was easy. Like, yay. She didn't kill anybody or slap anybody, or she didn't even do anything. She just, like, the demon just left. And then they were just kind of like, oh, everything was lighter, brighter, presence of God, smell of sanctity, whatever. They didn't say that, but I said that. I added that bit. But yeah. They said, so, yeah, the demon's gone, but the Reverend warns it might come back, though, implying that it's like, you're not living right, then the demon might come back. So none of that whoring around or like, playing with Ouija boards or watching horror movies or any of that. Or the demon's going to come back and it's going to be your fault. That was what I heard anyway. That's not what he said, but that's kind of what I heard. So Father Darren actually blesses the house before he goes, including the shed where the lug nut situation happened. And also, calls on St. Michael, hey, protect the place, yada yada. And then Cindy says that maybe that her husband's ghost was like watching over them, and maybe that's why like Chastity had seen him a couple times, like maybe he was like hanging around to like warn him, hey, there's a demon in the shit that like killed me, so you might want to watch out for that. But I don't know if that's the case or not, because I don't think, at least from what they said, that they didn't see the dad's ghost after that. So after this, they're just like, well, even though the house is presumably okay to live in now, they're like, it's just too many bad memories. So they actually do sell the house and move away. And they said, as a little coda at the end, they said Chastity still has nightmares about her dad's death, but has kind of learned to deal with them. So everything is probably okay now. Okay. So there's that. John Gore said it was kind of like Zeppelin with Tolkien. Yeah. With their words. Right. Which is funny because Led Zeppelin is like, and even nowadays, like people like, consider them like really cool and stuff like that. But when you listen to the lyrics, I'm like, oh my God, like back in the day, it must have been so nerdy. It's still kind of nerdy. But it sounds cool though.
Back in the day, at least Americans didn't know what he was talking about.
That's true.
They weren't reading Tolkien. Tolkien wasn't wasn't a known quantity back in the 70s or 80s. It really, when that first Lord of the Rings movie came out, the animated one, remember the rotoscope one? I love that one. I want to see that one again.
I did too.
That just appeared and people were blown away. They're like, what is this? You know, only nerds into the fucking Dungeons and Dragons and shit, fucking in role-playing games knew what Tolkien was. They read that, but the mainstream didn't read it.
I think, well, we
were reading it.
Yeah.
Me and my boys were fucking military academy back in the fucking early 80s, reading the fuck out of Tolkien. And
I did too when I was a kid.
Dungeons and Dragons and
it
all.
wasn't my main thing, because I'm more a horror girl than, like, a fantasy person. But I did read all of that, you know what I mean? I read, like, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that.
I read when I was younger. I don't think I ever read the Lord of the Rings. I read the Hobbit, and I saw the Lord of the Rings. And I saw all the movies. You know, the animated movies. We saw those recently. They're pretty good. They're not as good as I remembered them, but I really liked Lord of the Rings. That one was kind of like a Frank Frazetta, moving Frank Frazetta movie. It was kind of like Fire and Ice, but darker.
Remember, we just reviewed The Hobbit not too long ago, didn't we? Or we watched it just like a few months ago, didn't we?
Yeah, did we review it?
I don't remember. I thought we reviewed it, right?
It's got all of them. It's got like the Return of the King and all that. I think there's like 4 of them in there.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think there's more of them than that. I want to see Lord of the Rings again. The old Lord of the Rings.
The animated one.
The animated one. Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably, because I thought we watched it around that same time that we watched The Hobbit, but I guess we didn't. We just watched The Hobbit.
It was rotoscope. It looked like really good cartoon animation.
Tammy says the movie Tolkien was pretty good. Ooh, I remember seeing the previews for that, and we never got to see it. Said he had a pretty rough start in life. Yeah, I don't know a great deal about his biography, but yeah, I had actually wanted to see that movie because I remember seeing the trailers for that like a long time ago, but one of these days I'll get around to it. Like I said, it's gonna be like so many movies I gotta see, so many books I gotta read. I'm never gonna live long enough. Jesus Christ. You know, well, you know, I mean, I guess that's good. I'll never get bored, you know, but it's like, I have so many. I just like, it's a huge list. But yeah, so, I don't see like a lot of comments. Is anybody commenting on the shit?
I'm actually looking at other messages. They're right there.
I know that, but I wondered if yours had updated, because mine didn't update, because sometimes it didn't update, which always kind of worries me. But yeah, so that was that haunting episode. It was, you know what? It was a pretty good episode. But it's a pretty standard exorcism narrative. I didn't really get the sense that it wasn't one of those ones, because you know how a lot of times when you see one where there's like a, you know, culminates like in a big exorcism at the end, you get a sense that it's almost kind of like Christian propaganda type of thing, because it's like the people are like super religious. You didn't really get that sense in this one. They didn't really seem super Jesus-y or anything. So I don't know. I guess the implication was that she had picked up this demon at this abandoned house that they went ghost hunting at. I mean, that was pretty sure that's what the implication was, because they kind of made a big deal about her going to this abandoned house and her kind of like just finding it randomly and being like almost like, ooh, like she was drawn to it, you know what I mean? So it was like the demon being like, hey, come here, this is where. So the demon lived in the abandoned house, I guess, and was just waiting for some sucker to come by to possess. I'm guessing that's kind of what's going on. I don't know how demons work, but that's basically what was going on. All right, so yeah, that was all of that episode. So what else would we like to talk about now that we're done talking about a haunting?
Talking to me?
Yeah.
I thought you were asking them.
No. Well, I mean, I'm asking everybody.
I got that turkey down there that came out of the oven sitting, and I thought you wanted a salad. We haven't eaten all day today.
I have not eaten a single thing. Yeah. You ate a small Deborah. Although, actually, this one is kind of like a medium-sized Deborah, because it's one of those peanut butter...
Yeah.
What is it? What are they called?
It was the...
It's like an oatmeal cream pie, but it's like a peanut butter one.
Two peanut butter cookies with peanut butter in the middle. It was good.
I love those, but I can't eat them because I looked at the calorie count. I'm like, holy shit, that's like 450 calories just for one. That's like a fucking meal, so I can't eat it. But yeah, he ate one of those, but I haven't eaten a single thing today, so I'm like starving. But yeah, he made a turkey, so we're going to go have it.
I had that thing. It's like a smoked turkey. It's not a Christmas turkey. It's just I put liquid smoke on it, slow cooked it. It's almost falling apart.
Yeah, it's been in there all day.
It's good.
Turkey.
So it's just gonna be good with make it like a salad.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Bought that last Thanksgiving and got them 60 cents a pound. You just can't beat that. And it was 11.
Yeah,
pound
I think we've said that a bunch of times. Like we went to Publix like a bunch of times.
Yeah,
you could
bought
only
a bunch of them.
You could only buy 2 like per person.
Yeah.
So it's like he'd buy 2 and I'd buy 2, and then we
go
go back the next day and then he'd buy 2 and I'd buy 2.
I still got 5 of them in the freezer down there. Yeah.
Tammy says, "Ooh, I found those Snickerdoodle Little Debbies. Pretty good."
I haven't had that one yet.
Yeah. We've had the Snickerdoodle ones.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah.
But the peanut butter ones, they're harder to find. Like they have them at Publix, but they don't always have them. But like I said, they're bigger, significantly bigger, and thicker, and they're like really, because your regular Little Debbie, it's not, it's probably like 200, 300 calories, something like that. But the peanut butter ones are like 450, so that's like a meal replacement as far as I'm concerned.
Well, there's 2 oatmeal cream pies too. There's the small one and then there's the big one. It's the size of the big ones.
It's big.
But it weighs like about twice that.
Yeah, it's like super thick and dense, but they're really good though.
I still want to try, what was the double fudge that you called it?
Fudge rounds.
Fudge round.
See, I don't like those. You might like them. I mean, they're not terrible, but if
chocolate cookie with chocolate frosting.
Right. They've had those forever because they had those when I was a kid. I'm surprised you hadn't had one because he got Star Crunches and I was like, eh.
Star Crunch is good. It's like $100,000 bar. Like
like $100,000.
Yeah.
I don't like those. I'll eat them too, like if that's all that's around.
Yeah.
But it's never my first pick. Yeah. I'm not really into the Star Crunches for whatever reason. But yeah, so I guess we'll wrap it up so we can go have some turkey and go watch some more. Oh, and also over the weekend I bought the entire series of Night Gallery. Yeah. So because if you guys follow me over on the Scare Salon channel and blog, I did the pilot, like I'm still doing Thriller, but I'm watching those on YouTube. But we were at FYE in the mall on Saturday, and they had all of the Night Gallery like in one big pack for like $34, and I was just like, oh shit, I'm gonna get, because I was gonna do the whole series, and I don't know where else to find them, so I just bought them. So eventually, I don't think I'm gonna do, because like if you've been watching Thriller, like I usually do like 6 episodes at a time. I'm probably not gonna do that. I might just do like 2 or 3 episodes at a time because I don't have a lot of time. But I have been watching them at night. I already did the pilot, but I'm gonna do season 1. So I watched a few last night, but I fell asleep, so I'm gonna watch other ones. But yeah, look out for that. Like I'll be posting those intermittently, you know what I mean. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this paranormal shenanigans that we've been talking about on here. Again, decent episode, but it's exorcisms, so it's just pretty standard as far as that goes. So we'll be back again on Wednesday for the main show, and the topic for Wednesday's show is Patty Hearst.
Oh, her, okay. All right.
Yeah, so we're gonna be talking about Patty Hearst, which I've been putting that in the poll a long time, but but yeah, it's funny because I first started reading about her like back in the 80s because of that Camper Van Beethoven song, which is called Tanya, which is like about her. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about that on Wednesday. So hopefully you guys can all come and see us then. And we will see you guys on Wednesday night. Good evening.